it's a big Pandora's box when you start talking about contingency plans and what's going to fail, and how far do you take this hypothetical of how bad is it going to fail.
This is Facility Rockstars, the podcast that celebrates the unsung heroes of our daily lives, facility professionals. I'm your host, Jay Culbert. Join me as we honor these great leaders, sharing stories, insights, and expertise that empower us all to learn and grow together. Facility Rockstars is sponsored by Coludus, operating the way you operate in order to make your life easier. Welcome to Facility Rockstars, episode number 100. We are thrilled to introduce you to today's guest. She's someone who represents the next generation of engineering leadership in large-scale manufacturing and sustainable infrastructure. She brings both technical excellence and real enthusiasm for the work, especially when it comes to seeing complex projects through from concept to completion. She's an award-winning young leader recognized as one of Maine Biz's 40 under 40, and she's a rising voice in sustainable manufacturing and construction. She is a project engineer at Sappi North America. Jess Oriente, welcome to our 100th show.
Thank you, Jay, for the wonderful introduction there. Gotta keep it 100.
We're psyched to have you. I can't thank you enough for investing your time with me today. I'm excited. It's going to be awesome. By the way, congrats on the award. That's no small achievement. That's very cool. So congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, was definitely not expecting that, but very honored to receive it.
It's awesome. You should be proud. So Jess, with your experience, I know you've gone through project management and now facilities. You've got a lot to share here today. What's been your biggest lesson learned?
That's a great question. And I think probably one of the more reoccurring questions that, come up throughout our career and stuff. Right now, I'm about, 8 years in to working full time in the paper industry. And honestly, through everything, I would say that the biggest lesson learned is to just roll with the punches, especially in the paper industry and the construction world and stuff. You can have a perfect schedule, but you're never really going to know what's going to come up. And so I think that the biggest lesson is just, roll with the punches, but to never lose sight of that main goal. The roll with the punches portion of it is very transferable across whatever you're doing. But that main goal is going to change depending on, what you're doing in your career or what project you're on, or, just what's going on that day. So pretty much you just have to be adaptable, when the unexpected comes up. Your main goal for me, most recently right now in the new role that I moved into, is more of a facilities management for an integrated pulp and paper mill. For the past, about 3 years was for Project Elevate, which we can definitely talk more about. And that's what the 40 under 40 award was for the work on Project Elevate. But no, I would say overall, the biggest lesson learned is kind of roll with punches, be adaptable when the unexpected comes up. And it's very important to have contingency plans. Of course, the more developed, the better. But even just having, like a risk assessment or some type of backup plan is important to have, because you never know, plan A is one thing, but you never know when you're going to get to plan Z and just kind of have to figure it out.
Definitely. That's awesome. I have a couple follow-ups for you. So you mentioned adaptability a few times. Where did you learn that? It's a skill, right? So where did you learn that skill?
Yes.
Or the ability to do that?
I would say it's probably most learned in the field. I went to college, had my bachelor's in engineering, minor in construction management. I also had my master's in civil engineering and construction management. And I really do enjoy, I've always enjoyed learning. I enjoy the school setting, but it's in a very, the school setting is in a very ideal kind of insulated bubble. It's excellent and a great foundation, I think, very important to have to learn those skills in more of a protected classroom setting. But to have that adaptability, I think really is just field experience, to be honest. Especially, I can't express, how important, internships are in college and networking. and being able to learn from people through, all walks of life. And especially in the industry that we're in, there's people from all over. And some of them have the, craziest backstory and they've seen the craziest things. You just really have to be like a sponge and kind of, take it all in, keep what works for you and figure out what doesn't, which is also equally as important as figuring out what does work for you. And so I think really just getting as much field experience as possible. But again, that also depends on the type of person you are. I personally really enjoy the kind of hybrid work. You have the office setting, you have the design reviews and stuff like that, but then also going into the field. And you're taking something that works perfectly on paper and then trying to build it in real life. Doesn't always go according to plan. And I think just the more experience you have in doing that, the better you'll become at being adaptable and being able to figure things out.
Spot on. Spot on. That was a really good walkthrough. Thank you. I think, yeah, the field experience, and sure, it depends on the kind of person you are, but yeah, nothing can really replace that experience because,
Right.
like you said, it's an ideal, or how'd you put schooling? It's like a theory or ideal, right?
Right. It's an
Versus
ideal,
reality.
perfect classroom setting where everything kind of works out in the end. There's always going to be, some type of answer.
You also mentioned contingency planning, and I just want to dig into that a little bit if you could, because that's important. I think our listeners would really like to hear, like, well, how did you build it? Yeah, can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So I would say the contingency plan is going to change depending on what you're doing, whether you're constructing something new or whether you're trying to maintain existing structures. So probably the more straightforward one would be, maintaining existing structures. Like for instance, where I work now, integrated pulp and paper mill, tons of pipelines, a lot of them underground and hard to reach areas. And we have, part of our risk management system here is we have a mill wide kind of database of all of our underground pipelines. And we have contingency plans of, okay, if this line goes down, what equipment or what machine needs to go down, or where can we divert flow to, and who needs to be notified. And in an emergency, it's really important to have that information easily accessible. And so we have annual reviews of them, and even just basic information of, where is the pipeline, what depth is at, what
Mm,
material is it. And a lot of this stuff, if you're dealing with older uh, in infrastructure, the older materials they used might not be the best option nowadays. And nowadays, the materials, even though they're really good, might have long lead time, like HDPE pipe. Love that
mhm,
material. Love the pipe. Can withstand a lot, but very long lead time. So it kind of changes depending on also what level of risk it is.
mm.
Continuing with just the pipeline aspect of it. If you have an old line, that has had some leaks that you patched or repaired, or you slipped lined in, it's going to have a higher risk of failing than one that was just put in yesterday.
Sure.
And so that's kind of it's a big Pandora's box when you start talking about contingency plans and what's going to fail, and how far do you take this hypothetical of how bad is it going to fail. And so I think focusing on the higher risk items, there was something that's more probable. How probable is it to fail, and how drastic would it be to overall operations if it did fail? And you can kind of create a scale. And there's a lot of tables and how to rate stuff within the industry and best practices there. But I think it's important to take the time to develop that, even though it might not seem important now. You're
Mhm.
going to be thankful for the team that has developed it and put in the time for something, because when that time does come that you need it and it's easily accessible, all that prep work, paid off. And it's one of those things too, where you're hopeful that you're never going to need it. You're hopeful that you can plan perfectly every replacement and every outage. But hope is not a plan. It's something I was
That's
told
right.
very
That's
early on in
love
in
that.
in, in my career, and that has stuck with me. Hope is not a plan. Uh, so it's important to. take the time to develop those contingency plans. And it also helps with transferring roles, especially with kind of going on a tangent here, but within the industry, especially within the paper mills, there's a lot of folks who are nearing the end of their career and
But
they've worked
Jess,
here for years.
these are amazing things that you're laying down here, Jess. And I think like the fact that you're talking about the location of the pipeline, the sourcing challenges, the lead time, the risk factors. There's so much, and you're what I'm hearing you say is you're building this massive insurance policy basically because, like you said, hope isn't a plan, right? So yeah, and I didn't mean to sidetrack you there, but please tell me about the other challenge you were just about to get into.
So I think it's something that is really industry wide. But personally, I've always worked in the paper industry, so I'm seeing it firsthand in paper and construction. But there's definitely a trend right now of the very skilled, very knowledgeable workforce nearing the end of their career. They've worked in the industry 50 plus years. They were here at the beginning when the mills were from the ground up, and they've seen it all the way through. And then there seems to be a gap kind of in that middle level area. And then now there's an influx and hopefully more of, younger folks, myself included, coming in that have around that, 10 years or under uh, experience within the industry. And so, personally, this is very near and dear to my heart because so I was on Project Elevate for about 2.5 years with Sappi, and then recently moved into a facilities maintenance manager role and project engineer. And the person that I'm taking over for in the facilities maintenance role was a veteran here for, I think, in the paper industry for 50 plus years, who
Wow.
recently retired. And he actually, back when they still hand drafted everything, he actually had hand drafted like the original site plans to this mill. So it's impossible shoes to fill.
That's awesome.
Um, Thankfully, a lot of people, himself included, is they're willing to still dedicate their time, come back as a contract consulting type role
Hmm.
and be able to still help us through this. Because even just asking questions is really, really great knowledge base that I'm not going to be able to have otherwise.
Yeah, I remember we spoke on this. I think it was just the other day. And how do you replace that level of experience? I mean, the answer is you really can't, right? But you can learn from it. So yeah, that's. And didn't you indicate that there were a few people? There's a handful of people that came back and are more consulting with you now, right?
Yes, yeah, we had a few come back on for Project Elevate, and again, it's guys that have worked in the industry for years and years, and you just can't beat that type of experience and that type of knowledge. And I'm also very grateful that number one, they're willing to come back after having worked that long in a very demanding field, but also that I have the opportunity now to work on projects relatively, this size, still relatively early on in my career, which is a great experience, kind of a double-edged sword there of, all right, you're up. But also at the same time, if you're willing to put in that time and willing to, willing to learn and just willing to work in this type of industry, there's a lot of opportunities.
It's amazing. You've mentioned Project Elevate a handful of times, and that is, as you said, tied to the award that you won. Congrats
Yes.
again.
Thank you.
Could you just maybe walk us through a couple of the challenges, or maybe there were several, or maybe there were only a few, and then the achievements and like the kind of lessons learned from that whole process?
Yes. So Project Elevate was uh, about a 3-year, $500 million capital strategic project that happened at the Sappi Somerset Mill. We rebuilt and expanded our number two paper machine here, and it's now the most technologically advanced in North America in the packaging world. And what was really, really great about this project was just being able to work with so many people across the world. It was an international endeavor between the equipment manufacturers, the contractors, the design engineers, Sappi itself. We were working with people obviously in the States, and then in Canada, in Brazil, in Finland, in Sweden, really all over the world. Personally, my
That must have
role,
been amazing.
yes, it was very exciting. Lots of meeting times and figuring out when Finland can meet with Alabama and where we fit in there, and some early days and late nights and fun travels too. Because I got the opportunity to go early on in the project to go to Finland and Sweden uh, to look at some equipment manufacturers and other paper mills. It was a really fun experience.
Awesome.
Yeah. And so within this role, or I should say within this project, my role was working directly for Sappi. I was pretty much the owner's rep, kind of a combo of duties and stuff, but I was the owner's rep for all of the CSA scope. So the civil, structural, and architectural scope,
Hmm.
also underground pipelines. So pretty much anything underground, concrete, or steel uh, is what I oversaw. I was the only person on the Sappi side, but did have a really good team on the construction management side, a really good team with that company. And then I also had uh, counterparts on the design side. We worked with an engineering firm, and I was kind of the liaison between all of those parties. So I worked for Sappi, but I was kind of that middle person between the design firm, between the construction management firm, and then also worked closely with the contractors in the field. So this project, I've always felt that I enjoyed projects, and I've been very grateful that I've had the opportunity to work in capital projects for pretty much most of my career so far, starting with the smaller ones and working my way up. And this one especially kind of cemented that for me. And that I really, really enjoy seeing something through from conception all the way through to completion. And this one particularly, I was on for about 2.5 years, and saw everything from the environmental permitting side all the way through to getting the new machine running again.
That sounds complex. It sounds exciting. It sounds massive. What was it like to be the liaison? I think that's the word you used between like design and construction and engineering. And how did you do that?
This one particularly was a little bit more difficult in the sense that we were rebuilding a machine and we're putting in new structures, essentially right in between or on top of existing structures and existing equipment, while still keeping that equipment operational. So, and Sappi Mill here is also food safe. So we have a lot of food safe certifications because our paper goes into food safe type products. And
Mhm.
so we have, there was a lot of unique planning that needed to be done in order to protect the finished paper that was coming through, while at the same time we're drilling piles right next to where finished product is. So a lot of trials and failures and figuring out what worked, and thankfully have a really good team, really good peers across the board of everyone realizing, again, kind of bringing it back to the first question that you asked of what's the main goal. And at the
Mhm.
end of the day, you know, for the people here, the project, of course, was our focus and the people on the project. Overall, the main goal is to get finished paper out to the customers and have it meet the expectations that Safety has,
Mm.
for the high quality paper. And so at the end of the day, that was the focus. And so kind of being able to fit in, a massive construction project by itself was huge, but then fitting it in on top of keeping everything else operational was a very unique puzzle that took a lot of people and a lot of time. And so I think some of the other difficulties too is constructing in Maine in winter comes with its own, trials. And we had at one point we had the roof off of the area of our finished product warehouse, while we still had finished paper going through these like scaffolding structures that we built. We had watertight and fire resistant tarps and everything, because again you have tons of paper going through in areas where you're doing hot work. And so there's a lot of unique situations that don't necessarily happen on just like a greenfield, new build construction.
No, that's super
Uh,
unique. And I would say high risk too. You've got
Yes,
hot work going
very
on with the
high
combustibles.
risk. Yes. But we worked a lot also with our, our fire protection. We have an in-house fire protection team. We have a lot of coordination with our insurance partners, and able to come up with this plan of, yes, there's going to inherently always be some level of risk, but come up with a plan where the risk was manageable and still allowed us to complete the construction project. Because at the end of the day, this project Elevate has really set the company up in the area for the future.
Mm. Well, congratulations again. That was a great walkthrough. That's super complex. And you said it's the most technologically advanced machine in North America?
Yes. Yep.
Wow.
For the paper machine that this makes. Yes. And also, little plug, if you are interested, go on YouTube to Sappi North America, and they have a ton of videos from the project. I think it's in their Project Elevate folder, on YouTube. But something else that I thought was really great about this project was you don't normally see, PR or marketing for construction projects, especially
Mm.
for paper mills. But they actually they put a lot of effort and thought into showcasing this project to the community and to the world. And so they did a lot of work on, having really high quality level footage and interviews and walkthroughs of the project team and the construction and the outage. And there's some really, really cool videos there to go check out.
Oh, definitely check it out. You said that's Sappi North America on YouTube, right?
Yes.
Okay. Did plug in Project Elevate or anything more to drill down on?
Yeah, if you go to, you can type in Project Elevate on that page, or if you just go to Sappi North America page on YouTube, they have a Project Elevate folder with all the videos, and you can see it go through, construction and steel erection, all, to a time lapse of the main machine outage all the way through to making paper.
Awesome. Oh, I'll definitely check it out. Um, so by the way, I believe, no, you were definitely the first guest from this industry on the show. So
Oh, wow, that's
that's really
exciting.
cool. So this is a totally new topic for us. So awesome, especially for our 100th.
There you go.
Can you talk a little bit, Jess, about your I think it'd be helpful for all of us if you talk through the transition from construction project management, really, and correct me if I'm wrong, to more of a facilities maintenance role, and what were the positives, what are the challenges, and what would your advice be for someone else going through a transition like that or that change? Hey, rock stars! If you're tuning into the podcast and are feeling overwhelmed by all the maintenance demands at your facility, don't stress. We've got you covered. Our sponsor, Coludis, is your go-to partner to help you tackle all those demands and get them done right, on time, and with top-notch quality. From project planning to execution, Coludis is there to make hard work easy. Visit coludis.com today to get started.
I would say so. Overall, the tradition has been good. It's different, of course. It's just getting used to a new normal. But it's definitely still, still very interesting work. There's still a lot of work going on. Overall, with the integrated pulp and paper mill that the Somerset Mill is, we do have some, there's some aging infrastructure in the world of, the paper industry. This is a fairly newer mill. It was constructed in the 70s through with the started in the 70s with the back half, and then through even just the last year with PM2 overall.
So that statement alone is such a disconnect with some of like the pharmaceutical life science buildings, because I think you just classified something built in the 70s as fairly new.
Within the paper industry, yes.
Right.
Yes, I
Wow.
have worked in mills. The very first mill that I worked in, there's a smaller one down in Pennsylvania. That still had areas of the mill from like the late 1800s, which was a bit extreme on one end there. And then another mill I worked at previously in Maine prior to the one I'm at now, that one was built in the 60s.
Wow.
So this one, the back half, and by back half, I mean like the pulp mill, the powerhouse and woodyard, that was all the like 70s, 80s. And then the paper machine were, 80s through 90s. And then the most recent upgrades, we had a few in the 2000s, and then the most recent one in 2020. So, yeah, so it is probably one of the harder things, just having a site of this size and this,
Mhm.
it's almost like having multiple different industries on one site. So overall, we have about I think about 2,000 to 2,500 acres overall of property, and then about 600 of that is developed. By that I mean it's either covered with it's part of our wood yard or has machine buildings, and so that 600 acres is more of what's developed and needs to be managed, and that can include everything from roofs to building conditions to underground lines to, road conditions and snow plowing, just to, general uh, landscaping and, tree trimming and railroads as well. I think we have about 8 miles of railroads that
Wow.
Sappi owns that are also part of that facilities management scope. And so
And
that's
for the audience who members who feel like they have a lot on their shoulders, and they do, don't get me wrong, anybody, um, who's handling all this? Do you have a team? Is it just you?
we got a very good question. No, so the facilities management role for more of what I do on the like elevators and railroad side and like general day-to-day stuff with like building conditions and road conditions. All of that is under me. We do have part of our maintenance group. We do have a building trades and maintenance services group that can take care of a lot of stuff as well, which is great to have those in-house people readily available. But pretty much all of the like exterior structure work, the undergrounds, railroads, roofs, elevators, all of that is for the most part contracted out. And I work a lot with the contractor aspect of it and managing those.
Got it. Got it. You don't have any dull days, huh?
No, there is always something. And if it is quiet, kind of like, all right, what's going on? When's the other shoe gonna drop,
So from the construction side to, it sounds like it's, am I getting it right? It sounds similar, maybe just a slightly different scope.
Yes, it is. It is very similar. I would say one of the difficulties that I've had is, transitioning the role is coming off a project that had, such an adrenaline rush and a high, and something you've worked on, for 2.5 years, and you've done all this like crazy cool type of work, everything from having a crane in here that took uh, like 20 something trucks to erect, and having a helicopter lift to get equipment up to the roof of the paper machine building, all of that really, really fun, still crazy schedule and busy, but very fun, at least to me, probably everyone listening and also,
Oh
but
yeah.
kind of making that transition from that type of work to more of your equally as important, but more of your day-to-day stuff,
Mhm.
doing your annual railroad plan, and your inspections and elevator inspections and your annual work, which is very important and needed to keep the facilities going. But it's just kind of trying to, having to make that mental switch as well. Yes, you're sitting at your desk more going through, work orders and invoices and timesheets and putting bids together and stuff. But it's just also a different phase. I think with Project Elevate, I was, the first half of that project, my first join, it was more office work and design work. And then you had in the field work, and it was just, it was a longer duration for each phase. And then this one, it's more of an annual turnover in the sense that you
Mm.
have you have your annual maintenance budget, your annual capital budget, and working more within the fiscal year instead of multi-year. So it's just making the views a little more short term on the projects,
Mhm.
and being able to complete stuff within the fiscal year. But also at the same time, it's still very important to keep up your 5-year, 10-year capital plans for
Mhm.
facility roofs and for railroads, and a lot of the infrastructure was installed at the same time, so it's starting to age out and be replaced at the same time. Uh, no different than all the highways and the bridges and everything that were installed at the same time, and everything needs to be replaced now. So I think that's part of the other difficulty too, is you go from this, flashy, brand new construction uh, to something where you're trying to maintain uh, elevators that were built in the 60s and still have some original components, you know?
Right.
So it's
Right.
just less of a glitz and glam,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
more of all right, how do we make this work, So I think that's probably one of the bigger differences. But again, it's equally as important. Not every day is going to have a equipment helicopter lift. Not
Right.
every day is going to be that type of work, but making sure that your railroads are still operating, making sure your elevators are still operating. And a lot of our elevators here are freight elevators, so they transfer paper, they transfer chemical totes, and sometimes uh, if something's down for an extended time, it can take. It's very close to taking a machine down, which is not at all what we keep everything running 24/7.
I'm
And
sure.
so,
That was a question I had. The plant runs 24/7.
yep,
They're always up.
24/7, 365.
Mm.
They have there's, of course, planned what they call them mini and maxi outages on different durations, because there's, maintenance to be done at different intervals. But 99% of the time it'll be operating 24/7, 365. So lots of demands there.
I would say so, never ending. I think that
Yes.
was a really, really good walkthrough you just gave us. Thank you, because I'm sure anyone listening who's even close to making a change like that in their career could relate. I think, like, would you say, like, not as flashy, but no, not glamour and glitz, but like equally as important. It's just kind
Right.
of a shift.
Mhm.
Awesome. Well, now I want to ask you this: what do you love most about your job, and why?
I I think I've said this before in this, but I just really enjoy seeing something through from conception to completion and
Yeah.
being able to be involved in all the intricacies of it and, working with a team very much, more of a team oriented person. I much prefer working
Mhm.
with people to achieve a goal. And I also thoroughly enjoy the project management aspect of it, of being able to know know a lot and know a breadth of information, whether it be, civil, structural, like my background is more of a civil aspect, but also knowing a lot about mechanical and electrical and being able to work with all different disciplines. I love concrete, love steel, but it's also very interesting to be able to work with electrical and be able to work with mechanical, and kind of fit everyone's needs, and everyone depends on each other. And so that's kind of what I love most. And again, just to a different scale from how I was in Project Elevate, but still very much the same type of idea right now that I'm in of, the facilities projects, and then I also have some, uh, yeah, annual capital projects and stuff, and just being able to see that all the way through, because it's a nice sense of achievement, both personally knowing that you put in the work, and
Mhm.
then also. I enjoy that you have something tangible to kind of look back on. Be like, "Oh, hey, I helped build that." Personally, what I really love about the paper industry too, no matter what role you play in it, at the end of the day, what you're doing is, some small or large part of getting paper out the door, which turns into products that people use every day. So that's what
Mhm.
I also really like about this industry is that, you're able to work on something that, ultimately someone's going to use uh, in their daily life. And they probably won't ever think where it comes from, but it's going to help them, and I think it's really important to me to be able to be involved in something that ultimately helps people in their lives.
So I want to touch on that because you are clearly so passionate about what you do, and you have a really strong, and what I'm hearing, a very strong why behind what you do. And that is unique. It's not that most don't, but the way you're laying it out is like you're right from the wood yard to the railway to the way concrete, steel, and electrical fit together, work together, to the product delivery and the people, the recipients of the products you're producing. It's awesome to hear, Jess. I really appreciate the way you're walking us through this.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I definitely very, passionate about what I do. I think that's important because you spend so much of your time working. And especially in this type of industry, in the construction and the manufacturing industries that, uh, for the most part run round the clock and stuff, it is a little more demanding than your just typical 40-hour work week. It's important to feel impassion for what you're doing
Hmm. Hmm.
and be able to be proud of your work also.
I agree. I agree. We actually here at Coludus, we remind ourselves all the time. It's like you spend so many hours at work, you really want to love what you're doing, and you want to enjoy
Exactly.
the people you do it with, right? Have a good team and a good culture. So it definitely resonates for me.
And that's
Um,
also something that I really enjoy about this role and being able to work in an industry like this, or more in that construction management role, is how people oriented it is, and it's much more of a front facing role than your stereotypical. Uh, and the stereotype of engineering is like, they're loners, or they just kind of want to stay on their computers all the time. And I think this industry is special in that there's definitely a place for those people. I need those types of engineers to do all their art calculations and designs and everything to make it work perfectly on paper. Um, Personally, I couldn't do that work. Not enough field work and stuff for me personally. But again, very important in the realm uh, of design work. But what I really like about what I do now and what this industry and what the construction management aspect offers is that you're able to, be more of a front facing role and
mm,
work with people.
that's great. That is great. I we have I have so many things to ask you, but I think one of the things we want to touch on was like the future of the paper industry, and like maybe touch on. I know we talked a bit about sustainability.
Hmm. Yes. So sustainability is, one of the huge uh, focus principles of Sappi, and definitely of the industry overall. I think the paper industry, if you say that, it can get a bad rep, especially with people, not thinking how paper is used in their everyday lives. And while the industry is certainly smaller than it was in its heydays, back in the 80s and 90s, and it is still shrinking, I think it's important that the companies such as Sappi invest in the companies, both through Project Elevate, which is a huge commitment to the future, both of the company and also to the surrounding uh, areas. But I think it's also important to focus on the sustainability aspect. Zappi, I think, is one of the companies, one of the best companies that I've worked for in the sense of the focus on sustainability. And actually, they are an Eco Vetus top 1% uh, companies. So they're very, very high for sustainability metrics, especially within the paper i- industry. And I think that's very important because at the end of the day, sustainability is it's for your planet, for your people, and that's what we need to make paper. We need trees, we need well managed forests, and we need people. And so, taking care of the planet is going to, in turn, take care of the raw materials and of the people that are needed to get paper out the door. So while there has been a shift in the past several years, and will continue to be a shift in what paper is being made, what the products are being used for. A lot of shifts right now, such as Project Elevate, where they're moving more from your newsprint and graphics into packaging, and having sustainable packaging, and the swap from plastic to a uh, paper-based packaging, a paper-based option. I think is going to be very important, uh, and will kind of be more the route that paper takes.
Outstanding. This is all so, I mean, it's, I guess, new information for me to hear. Makes a lot of sense though. Like a shrinking industry, yet it's like how would you say repurposing things or
I think there definitely going to need to be risks taken of moving, seeing that market and taking that risk of doing, in implementing projects to set the companies up for the future. And Project Elevate, I'm going to keep bringing it up, is also three years of,
you
of,
should.
of my life here. But again, Project Elevate was all, was self-funded by Sappi, and it was a huge risk and huge investment in the future of the company. They
That's impressive
doubled.
too, that they could do
Yes,
that.
yes, exactly, and they doubled the capacity off the paper machine, so they doubled the amount of annual tons, and we changed the type of grades to get more into the specialty packaging grades. So I think the companies that will be around in the future are going to be companies like Sappi, and those larger companies are able to see the long term goals and make those short term risks.
Awesome. Awesome. So, Jess, if you were to give a counterpart or someone in a similar or the same role that you have now some advice, what would that advice be?
I'd say probably the most important is, it might be cliche, but ask questions, use your resources, pick people's brains, and just kind of, like I said before, I think the best experience, if you want to go into this, into the construction management type field, the best experience really is just being in the field and chatting with
Mhm.
people, and having the opportunity to work with the industry veterans and the retirees that come back, and just really having them as a resource, and being able to just pick their brains. I mean, they can have 50 plus years of knowledge, and a lot of things that they might just they see as easy to do, or not really uh difficult anymore, is something that was learned maybe after year 30, and they still had 20 years, you know so I think it's
Mhm.
kind of cliche, but definitely ask questions, and don't be afraid to use your resources, and uh, I'm a big believer, no question is a dumb question. Everyone kind of laughs at
Agreed.
that, but it's
Mhm.
also, you don't want to assume the answer, and so it's better to get a personally, always better to have the truth, uh, even if it is a very straightforward question, or however complex it may be. It's always better to have the accurate info than to assume something and have it, burn you down the road.
Very well said. Yes, absolutely. Well, I mean, I could probably go on for days with you here, but I say, well, before I ask you a couple questions, maybe more about you, Jess, how would people get in touch with you if they wanted to ask you more questions or reach out to you for any of the topics we covered today? What's the best way?
Uh, I would say LinkedIn. You can, search my information up. I think it's up there under Jessica Oriente. So feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn.
Perfect. Perfect. All right. So you just like so much knowledge, so much experience, so many big nuggets right there. What do you do? Do you have any other time? Like, are you able to get away from it at all? And
Yes.
what do you enjoy?
Yes. I enjoy, so funny enough, like the paper construction realm of stuff, like I love it. But at the same time, I also really enjoy uh reading and crafting, and stuff that isn't always just go 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 all the time. I think it's important to also kind of take a step back and spend time with yourself, and enjoy the things on the side. And it might not necessarily equate to anything that you do in your career, but it's still equally as important to do for yourself. And then on the other side of things, I've always played field hockey. Played club on the club team in college, and recently started playing again on kind of a summer pickup league. For the past about, I think, 7 or 8 years now, I've been a field hockey rep. So that during my kind of end of summer and through the fall season, I officiate, the local high school field hockey games. So that one's a little more relatable to work, but I think is also really, it's fun. It's tight with work sometimes to make it work with the afternoon game times, but it's nice to leave and run around for a bit, and you know be able to still be a part of a game that I love.
That's great. Wow, diverse too. Crafting, coaching or reffing. You said reffing, not
Reffing,
coaching, right?
yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
Nice.
reffing, yep.
So you're the mediator out there on the field.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes, very much so.
That's great. Jess, I cannot thank you enough for joining us for our 100th episode of Facility Rockstars. You're amazing. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Jay.
For everyone listening, please, if you don't already follow us, wherever you get your podcast, hit that follow button, and there'll be more guests like Jess to come. A great 100th episode, and we'll catch everyone next time. It's a wrap. Another episode of Facility Rockstars is in the books. Facility Rockstars is sponsored by Coludus, operating the way you operate in order to make your life easier. Until next time, facilitate and rock on.